Hello, everyone. If you're watching this, that means that, yeah, I'm probably stuck at home or you were absent. So these next few videos will be from when I myself was on quarantine because what I thought was a cold, and I feel like it's just a cold, it's actually more than just a cold. So I'm having to quarantine and make these videos for y'all fresh, so that way y'all can keep going with the material. So please, if you have any questions, reach out to me. You can comment in Google Classroom, you can email me. Please reach out to me and I will try to get back with you. But for today, we're going to, as was planned, as if I were to be at school, we're going to look at trig inverses and what all that entails. So Friday, we looked at just your normal trig ratios, sine, cosine, tangent, and we found the actual ratio itself. Today, we're going to take that and go backwards. So I don't remember if it was like the Cupid shuffle or the cha-cha or whatever, but where it's like reverse, 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 reverse. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to reverse. So we're going to have a ratio and then reverse it to get the angle. So with that being said, I'm going to turn my camera off for now, share my screen, and we will get into the lesson. Okay, so like I said, we're going to use trig ratios to find angle measures in right triangles and then do some word problems with this. So on Friday's lesson, which is lesson 2.5, we learned that we can put sine 30 in our calculator and get, well, let's see. Calculate, remember, like I said on Friday, every day when you come in, you need to check to make sure your calculator is in degrees. If you look on mine and you look where you're supposed to look, mine says radians. So in case you forgot how to change it, you just go and you click and it changes. Just take your little mouse and click and it'll change back and forth. We want it to say degrees. So I wanted to do the sine of 30 degrees. Remember that to get that, you hit the trig button. That's the button I walked around on Friday and made everyone put their finger on. So hit the sine of, we want to do 30, and we get 0.5. So the sine of 30 degrees is 0.5. Like I said, if we know that the sine of an angle is 30 degrees, the sine of an angle is 0.5, so that backwards, we can conclude that the angle is 30 degrees. So just like how you can go one way, you can go reverse and get the same info. This is called the sine inverse. Sine, that's what that -1 means. So this is the sine inverse of 0.5 equals 30 degrees. So I knew the ratio, then I could take it and get my angle. Again, make sure your calculator is in degree mode or you're not going to have a good day. So on Friday, some of y'all are like, well, when we did the cosine of an angle, you got something different than what I got. And then when I went and checked it, you accidentally hit the little -1. This time, we actually want the one that has the -1 on it. So if I look at this first example right here, that's the cosine inverse of 0.5. So I'm going to hit trig And I want to pick the cosine with the -1 on it, just like it's written on the page. And then we're going to type in 0.5. And it'll come back and tell us that that is 60 degrees. So I'll put 60 degrees here. Then they ask us to do the, if I can get this out of the way, maybe good enough. Okay, they ask us to do the sine inverse. So trig sine inverse of 0.45. And that gives us a big long decimal, 26.7436839504. What does it say? It says to round to the nearest degree. Round to the nearest degree. That means we need to round to the nearest whole number. So if I look at my calculator, the nearest degree would be 27 degrees. Now, what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to pause this video and try the tangent inverse of 3.2 in your calculator if you haven't already. So pause the video, try it, and see what you get. So I'm going to do the tangent inverse of 3.2. I get 72.6, so 73 degrees. Okay, so that's using the inverses. That's just typing it in. Just like I said on Friday, there's going to be probably one on the test that just asks you to find the sine inverse of 0.45. Just type it in, round to the nearest degree. Okay, so example 2, they ask us to find the unknown angle measure to the nearest degree. First, they ask us about angle A. So again, I'm going to kind of go through the steps like we would have on Friday, just because that's what we're used to now. So they want us to find angle A. Let's circle angle A because that's what we're finding. Now label your legs. Here's a leg. Here's a leg. This 5 that they give us is across from the angle, so it's our opposite leg. The 7.5 is next to it, so it's the adjacent leg. If we think of our trig ratios, we use the acronym SOHCAHTOA. Almost sounds like suck a toe. SOHCAHTOA. We use our trig ratios. Which one uses opposite and adjacent? Well, that would be tangent. So the inverse, we would say the tangent inverse of, I want the opposite over the adjacent. So 5 over 7.5. At this point, I can type the whole thing in the calculator. So tangent inverse of 5 divided by 7.5. So give me 33.69 and some change. Nearest degree. That's what they ask us to do. Nearest degree. So it's going to be 34 degrees. So A is 34 degrees. Now for B, we could do, not for B, well, letter B, angle C, we could do an inverse again. We really could. But also, just to kind of rekindle, if you will, what we learned on Unit 2, Day 1. Remember, a triangle has 180 degrees. There's our right angle, it's 90. A is 34 degrees. How many does that leave for C? So we could do 90 plus 34, which gets us 124, and then subtract that from 180. So when we do that, that gets us 56 degrees. Excuse me. So the measure of angle C is 56 degrees. Okay, let's look at the next triangle. So on the next triangle, they want us to find the measure of angle D. So we're going to circle angle D because that's what we're finding. Then, next step, label your legs. So let's see what they give us. This 3.2, it's a leg. We labeled it a leg. Is it opposite? Meaning, is it across from it? Or is it adjacent to it? Meaning, is it next to it? It's adjacent. So this is adjacent. The 6.8 is our longest side, so it's our hypotenuse. So which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? That would be cosine. So we're going to do the cosine inverse of 3.2 over 6.8. So trig cosine inverse of 3.2 divided by 6.8. 61.9 degrees or 62 degrees to the nearest degree. This is going to be 62 degrees. Okay. So now let's look at the measure of angle E. We're going to do like we just did. So we said D was 62 degrees. We know our right angle is 90 degrees. Let's get E. So you can do 90 plus 62, which gives you 152. Subtract that from 180, and you'll get, let's see, that's going to be 828. So that means E is 28 degrees. So you really only need to do the inverse trig ratios one time, because once you know one angle, then just add it to 90, subtract from 180. So that's inverse trig. Now, let's do a recap of what we did on Friday. They want us to find the unknown lengths to the nearest hundredth. Remember, the nearest hundredth means 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places. Okay, so first step, what do we say? Label the legs, leg and leg. And then on Friday, we said we want to circle the angle they give us. So A asks us to find EF. Well, there's EF right there. How is EF related to the angle they gave us? It's a leg and it's next to the angle, so it's the adjacent leg. On the 14 that's given, it's a leg and it's across from it, so it's opposite. So set up your equation. Again, remember SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. We're doing opposite and adjacent, so that would be tangent. So we're going to have the tangent of 58 degrees equals the opposite, which is 14, over the adjacent, which is x. That's what we're trying to find. So we want to multiply now by whatever's on the bottom. The x is on the bottom. That's what we multiply by. That cancels. It's going to give us x times the tangent of 58 equals 14. Then we need to divide by the tangent of 58 on both sides. Those cancel. This gives us x is equal to 14 divided by the tangent of 58. So let's see what that gives us. 14 divided by, this is going to be just the normal tangent, not the -1, just the normal. You're like, well, how do you know? Because I know the angle. If you know the angle, you just do your normal trig ratio. You only do the inverse if you're trying to find the angle. We're not doing angles here. We're doing sides. .75 is what this one would be. So 8.75. That's to the nearest hundredth. So that's EF. Now B asks us to find DF. So I'm gonna keep the opposite and my angle labeled because those stay the same. But now I want to go for DF. DF's not going to be the adjacent anymore. It's going to be our hypotenuse. So which one uses opposite and hypotenuse? That would be sine. So we're going to have the sine of 58 degrees. Sine of 58 equals the opposite, which is 14, over x. Again, x is on the bottom, so that's what we multiply by. We're going to have x times the sine of 58 equals 14 divided by the sine of 58 on both sides. Those cancel. We're going to get x equals 14 over the sine of 58 degrees. So at this point, we can type that into the calculator. 14 divided by the sine of 58 degrees. So 16.51. Okay, there's that side. So at this point, since this is a review of Fridays, I want you to pause the video and try C and D using the next triangle. Pause the video, try C and D, and then once you get those, then hit play, and I'll go through them. Okay, so for C, they want us to find XZ. There's XZ. Label your legs. There's a leg. There's a leg. And then circle the angle given. Okay, so how does the leg we want, how is it related to the angle given? It's opposite. It's across from it. So that means it's 15.3. Yeah, don't tell me adjacent. It's not a leg. 15.3 is our hypotenuse. So which trig ratio uses opposite and hypotenuse? That'd be sine. So we're going to do the sine of our angle, sine of 26 degrees, equals the opposite. We don't know it, so we're calling it x over 15.3. 15.3 is on the bottom, so that's what I multiply on both sides by. That cancels. I'm left with 15.3 times the sine of 26 equals x. Is x by itself? Yes. So we can type in that to our calculator now. It's going to be 6.71 basically. This is going to be 6.71. This time they give us units, so we can put centimeters. On the first two, they didn't give us units, so we just left it as is. But now they give us units. Okay, now they ask us to find xy. So here's xy. That's a leg. It's going to be our adjacent leg because it's next to the angle. So which one uses adjacent and the hypotenuse? That would be cosine. So let's set this up. The cosine of 26 is equal to x over 15.3. Multiply by 15.3 on both sides. Cancels there. We're going to get 15.3 times the cosine of 26 equals x. Is x by itself? It is. So let's type it in. 15.3 times the cosine 26. It's going to be 13.75. And again, we're in centimeters. So these four should have been a review of Friday. Okay, let's look at example 4. It says over Thanksgiving break, Tommy Joe and his family planned to go to San Francisco. And they invited Daisy Mae, but she politely declined. They hear about the infamous Lombard Street, which is known as one of the crookedest streets in the world. The road's 8 switchbacks were built in the 1920s to make the steep hill passable by cars. If the hill has a percent grade of 84%, what angle does the hill make with the horizontal line? Round to the nearest degree. Okay, so for those that don't know what switchbacks are, just so you can visualize what's going on here. If you ever, maybe not necessarily a hill, but if you've ever looked up like a mountain or something, say you've looked up pictures of Colorado. Here's a mountain. A switchback is a road that, like, you start going up, but then maybe once you get to the mountain, it gets too steep. I mean, clearly you don't want to go straight up the mountain. So you have to sit here and you have to go back and forth, all the way up the mountain. That's a switchback where you're having to wind all the way up. So what this is saying, when they say a percent grade of 84%, they give you a hint here that says change percent grade to a fraction. This really is the slope. So what is slope? Slope is rise over run. So 84% as a fraction is 84 over 100. So what this means, this is the rise over the run. For every 84 feet we go up, we go 100 feet over. So what they're wanting is what this hill makes with the horizontal line. They're wanting this angle right there. What is that angle? So we have to use our trig ratios. Here's your right angle. So these are legs. This is your opposite leg. This is your adjacent leg. So remember your ratios. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. Since I'm finding the angle, I'm going to do the tangent inverse of 84 over 100. So tangent inverse, 84 divided by 100. says round to the nearest degree. So that's going to be 40 degrees. 40 degrees. That's how steep the hill is. 40 degrees. Okay, so there's the lesson for Unit 2, Day 6. Stay tuned for the guided practice.